broadcast community. It is MJ Callaway here. And oh my goodness, it is Thursday. And I am excited to have Jim Kunkle with me, my co host, and also Kim Speed. Hello, both of you. Happy Thursday.
Hi, MJ.
Hi, MJ and Kim. Welcome.
Thank you. Thank you so much. Great to be here.
Oh, great to have you. And broadcast community, I have to share with you that today was the first day that I did behind the scenes with a little help from Jim. So we are actually live, and I am so thankful that I actually did it correctly.
It worked.
It worked. So, where are you coming from? Where are you tuning in from? Go ahead and drop us a line where you are located. And Kim, you are outside of the US. So, share with us where you are tuning in from.
Yes. So, MJ, I am in Canada. I am in Toronto, and just above north of you guys.
Our friendly companions.
Yes. Yes. Yes.
And Jim and I are here in the Pittsburgh area. So we're thrilled to have you because this topic about brand, I mean, I know it's one that always interests me, and anybody in business or who has a business definitely wants to think about brand and their branding. So could you, before we get into a lot of questions here, could you maybe wrap up what encompasses a brand?
I would love to, MJ. And I'd love to start with what people really, when they think of brand, what they go to first. And that is what I have, what I call brand and branding. And when people think of their brand, they actually are thinking of their branding. They're thinking of things like logos and websites and colors and fonts, even packaging and things like that as their brand. Those things are very important parts of your brand, but they are not what I consider to be your brand. Your brand really starts off with knowing who you are and what you stand for and helping people understand what that is. It's really your reputation and what people think of you. And a brand is what people say about you, not what you say about yourself. What you do with your brand is you try and help people to understand it and communicate it to them so that they have the same feeling that you do. And part of the way you do that is by using your branding. And those are the pieces that I had said before, the logo and the website and the packaging and the signage, etc. So I think that is the thing that I struggle with the most in trying to help people understand is that there is a difference. And that's why I call one a brand and one the branding. The branding supports the brand, and the brand is the first thing that you have to understand about yourself. You have to build that reputation, and you have to have some way to show people what you stand for.
I'm hearing a tangible part and then an intangible part. So am I wrapping that up into two segments?
Yes, you said it much more simply than I did, but I get very passionate about it. But you're right. The brand is the things that you can't see, and the branding are the things that you do see.
Yeah, I always viewed it as cerebral. It's the perception. It's what people think of you. It's an image in their head. Myself, I've been a professional for over 30 plus years, and my confusion in the past was that the brand was the logo, it was the artwork, it was the colors, it was the text, it was all that went into it. And then some years ago, I came to really realize that it's not that, because that might help people recognize your brand, but the brand lives in their head. And that's what's really important to really control. I don't want to say the word control, but you want to influence them. You want to have that headspace with them that they do recognize you, they do remember you, and then they associate you with quality or whatever they might need from your product or service.
Exactly. And that's why so many people will say to me as well, Kim, I'm just starting out, is this something that I need to invest in right now? And my answer is always, you know what? You have all, as soon as you started a business, you've started a brand. The
Yes.
question is whether or not you take control of it and nurture it, or let your competition nurture it for you, which usually doesn't work in your favor.
Oh, that would be terrible to have your competitor nurture it for you. That is such a great point. So when someone starts out, or whenever somebody is already in business, what is a way that they can help influence the way others see them?
You have to start off with really understanding how you want to be perceived and who you really are. So a great way to think about it is, if somebody was describing you to their friends or colleagues or an acquaintance, and you weren't there, how would you love them to describe you? What words would you love to hear them use? What adjectives to describe who you are and what you do? This is a great way to start and think about how those words come up in your mind. Like, are you friendly? Are you outrageous? Maybe you're the fun brand, or maybe you're the funny brand, which, is going to be some people and it's not going to be other people. Is it somebody that's, 24/7? Is it somebody that's totally like somebody you can count on? Like, think of some of those words and go beyond the I'm honest, I'm in integrity, trustworthy. What are some of the words that, would be unique to you? And that's one of the first exercises to start with, is who do you want to be, and how do you want to be described?
I love that. I know a few years ago, I sat back and I spent a weekend thinking about it, writing down. And then the other thing that I did was I had reached out to a number of colleagues and friends that I trusted. And I said, give me 3 words that would describe me. From your point of view, what are 3 words that would describe me?
Yes. That is so great. That is such a great exercise, because sometimes you'll sit there and it's like staring at that white paper thinking, I don't know, who am I? But other people, it's so much easier for them to say, oh, when I think of you, I always think about, you make me laugh, or, I can always depend on you, or something like that. They'll come up with stuff, and then you're going like, oh yeah, and it'll really start the juices flowing. So if you're stuck, that's a great exercise, MJ.
Yes. And I found it very informative. And I would say for Jim, one of the things I would say for him is he's a connector. Like connecting people, he is a connector. And I would say he sees a bigger vision too. He can see a bigger vision than what is in front of him. So those are 2 that I would say.
Yeah, I'm the Nostradamus of LinkedIn.
Amazing. I love that.
The other thing that I can remember when I posted something on one of the social platforms, and I was in Arizona and my flight was actually canceled. And it was the night before my granddaughter was going to be baptized, well, Kristen. And I needed to be home that night. And I posted something on Facebook like, oh my goodness, blank airline let me down. So sad. And one of my clients, he posted, he says, MJ, I've never seen you sad before. Like, I can't believe you posted this. And I thought, oh my goodness, there I was I had a brand. People knew what the brand was, more so than that was an eye opener for me. And I thought, oh my goodness, I will never make that mistake again, because it went against my brand.
Yes.
But you recovered.
I did recover. I did. We have quite a lengthy one here. So planted the seeds for mindful living. Okay, and open a small business account looking for logo and branding tips. Okay, so Dr. Rhonda visits us quite frequently and she has been a guest. So she's looking for logo and branding tips. What would you say for someone who the logistics of longevity, planting the seeds for mindful living?
So I would go back to starting with some of these exercises, because if you do something like, how do you want to be perceived? And then the next thing I would also say is, what are your values? What do you stand for? What's the character and personality of your brand? When you have some of these things done and you really have taken the time to think about them, that's going to help you to start to see clearly the path that you need to go to take for a look and feel. Or to be able to explain to a designer, this is who I am, this is what is really important to me, and allow them to then have the correct information so that they can build something out for you. Also knowing the style. What's your style? Are you, like, even thinking from your clothes to the way you decorate your home, are you more casual? Are you more formal? What colors do you gravitate towards? All of these things can then start to be fed to somebody who can help you.
That makes so much sense, because are you looking to be trendy, classical? I mean, there's so much more that goes into it. And also those descriptor words, they will help define whatever your brand is. Because I mean, if we decided to create a logo for something that was trendy, but we're really not trendy, that it doesn't fit, so it wouldn't jive.
Right. And before I said, like, we've talked a lot about, who we are and when we build our brand, I don't want that to sound like we only think about ourselves. So we do need to know what we want to be, but we also need to start to think about who we want to serve and the types of people and the characteristics and personalities that would be in that client base, or the types of ideal client that you are going to want to serve or work with, because that will come into play as well. So knowing both, then you probably start to see how there will be commonalities, because you're going to want to work with people that are somewhat similar to you, and they're going to want to work with people that are somewhat similar to them. So it's usually figuring it, unless you have something that's, you've bought a business and it runs on its own, it has a franchise, then that's something different, and you'd follow the franchise rules, etc.
Yes,
So
not
hopefully
talking
that's
about franchise, right?
Yeah.
However, the people that are working for a franchise, they do want to follow the, because I'm thinking about someone in the service industry. Oh, we need to be positive and happy there. That definitely would make a difference for whoever owned that franchise.
Yes.
So what mistakes can people make? What mistakes have you seen people make?
One of the things that I see happen numerous times is a company, especially one that has, more than one or two people. They get busy, they're getting the operations going, and all of the things, there's so much happening. So then they think, we'll just hire an agency, they'll do it and they'll create it. And they just give them the project and say, do it for us. That's one of the biggest mistakes. You cannot not be involved. You need to be involved at some point and make sure that your voice comes through, because otherwise you're not going to sound authentic. So people can go away and create something that's really sounds awesome, but it doesn't fit. It's like going in and putting like the worst outfit on that you feel so awful in and think, I can't wear this all day. You need to be involved. Whether you're starting it on your own or whether you use an agency and they build it with you and take all the information from you, and make sure that you have input into it, because that is how a true brand is going to be developed.
Oh, that makes so much sense. I mean, I think when you're talking about a color that would not work for me would be yellow. Like yellow would not work for me. And I'm thinking I would feel so yucky in it. So yeah. So if somebody developed a brand for you and you didn't have input and it wasn't authentic, it would feel the same way.
Well, exactly. And using the fashion again, like imagine somebody that is used to wearing sporty outfits and casual and, the Lululemons and things like that. And then all of a sudden somebody puts them in, high heels and a 3-piece suit, and it's wrong. It's wrong. And you try and wear it and you try and look good in it. And then you're stumbling around because first off, you don't wear high heels normally, and et cetera, et cetera. So like, that's when things start to fall off.
Makes sense. We're going to put Jim in high heels.
Yeah.
That would not be authentic to him.
Kim, I had a question for you. Sometimes you have companies who are starting up. Let's focus on a small business. They're starting up and they have an idea of where they want to be future state, but they're starting up and they're going to be at a beginning state. Mm-hmm. Is it a mistake for them to really look at the future state and build that into the brand, or should it be, we need to be based on this level of a brand right now, and we can evolve this brand into something different? So now maybe what they can do is look at how can we take an existing logo that we would use today and then grow it out without totally re-engineering it. Is that something you would recommend?
Yes. So if you think about it, when you have a brand, it's a living, breathing thing, and it does evolve. So you don't have to remain as one thing. Like, you could evolve and your client base can change, and maybe you bring in some new products or services. So that is fine. But what I'm saying about don't be something you're not in the beginning is, don't try to go out there and pretend that you're already there. Have that as a goal, and you can share that with your clients or your customers, that that's where you're going, but you don't have to fake that you're there already.
That makes sense. It's future, and we do evolve as a person. Our business has evolved. I mean, think about it. All three of us, when we think about our professional lives, we are definitely not in the same place we were even 5 years ago or 3 years ago, especially with everything that has happened over the last few years.
Right. Yes, we're all evolving.
Yes. And as Dr. Rhonda said, she started a new small company here, though, and she has definitely transformed over the past few years, knowing her from being on the show.
Right.
So if somebody was to take a brand audit, because I know that's one of your packages, you do a brand audit. What could you give us, like 3 pieces to the brand audit that we can share with the audience without going into a lot? Because I know that package is definitely more detailed than what we can cover here on the broadcast.
And you're right, MJ. So, and I always go back to the basics and the foundation, as what I said, as really finding out who you are and what you stand for, what's important to you, understanding your services, so that I can get into, is this working, and the functionality of the brand. Is it fitting? Is it working for you? But then looking at the brand in, say, your website, is this speaking to the people properly? Is it explaining who you are? Like, do you have the right message? And is it clear? Sometimes people get so busy trying to be clever, and I'm always telling them, like, are we making this clear, or are we making this like fancy? Because this sounds really clever, but maybe it's just clever to you. So a lot of times I'll look at who you are and what you do, who you serve, and then we go through some of the things that you actually use to communicate that.
I like that reminder about being having clarity over being clever, because I tend to have in a writing background, I tend to like to have things that are catchy, and
Yeah.
then it doesn't always work because people don't understand. Yeah.
Well,
So,
and that
yeah.
I have to talk about taglines for a bit because
Oh,
everybody
good.
wants to have, the fancy tagline, the ones like the big companies have, like just do it.
Yes.
Those are taglines that companies with lots and lots of money have spent that money on so that people do know who it is and what it means. But for smaller businesses or people that are starting out, this is where you need to be clear. So don't get fancy. And if you are having a tagline, have it so that people know it's explaining what you do or who you are with clarity. Not don't bring ambiguity into it at this point.
Yeah, I and what comes to mind all the time is with BASF, where where they say we don't make the products, we make the materials that go into the products, and that really helps identify them of what they do, and then also too, I think for branding, it's really perfect because it kind of sets them out in front of all their competition.
Yeah.
Definitely. And I know taglines, it's one thing that being a speaker, we're always talking about the tagline and trying to modify it, make it make sense. So I believe I finally have hit mine where it is make your bounce back your bounce up. So it is something I believe that can be clear to others. So because I had a bunch of them before that circled around bounce up that people didn't get.
And that's a great point because MJ, you use bounce up in a number of places, so it makes sense. So it's not like you just use it in your tagline. You use it in many parts of your brand, and you continue to share the story and why this means something and what it means to other people, or what it can mean to other people, what it means to yourself. So that's what's important to you and how you share your brand authenticity.
Thank you. And it is part of who I am. So I
Mm-hmm.
think that going back to what you said in the beginning, being part of who you are. So when we're doing, I want to sort of pull in this. So the brand audit, talking about, who you are, being authentic, who you serve, what trend or style, I guess it was style, your voice,
Yeah. Mm-hmm.
and then your services. So
Yeah.
4 parts.
Yeah. Yes.
Okay. Am I forgetting one?
And then how do you translate that into your message?
Okay, translating. So that would be after you have those 4 pieces, then translating it into your message. Okay, that makes sense. Okay, Jim, do you have a question there? Now that
I can tell you, I've been learning so much. And then the thing with the brand audit, how often do you conduct it? Is this something you do on an anniversary, or you do it every so many years?
It'll be different for everyone, but as a company grows, I definitely think it's something that like yearly isn't a bad thing.
Mm-hmm.
And when I say that, it's a lot of times you'll go through and this will help you look at things and say, oh, we had added some new services. Are we communicating the right thing at this point? Or we've sort of shifted in our clientele. Let's take a look at that, because that's part of the brand, is knowing who your people are and making sure you're clear and that the whole company's clear. So sometimes it's just a matter of taking just a little bit of time. It's just like you do, company audits.
Mm-hmm.
You can sort of tack that on at the same time. Like, are we still having the correct messages? Are we, is this the right look? Have we, connected all the dots for people?
Yeah. And the other thing too that I point out there, when being based in Pittsburgh, Pennsylvania, U.S. Airways was a major carrier, obviously based out of Pittsburgh and other eastern cities as well. When U.S. Airways purchased American Airlines, a lot of people don't know that U.S. Airways actually purchased American Airlines. they made a decision to go ahead and retire U.S. Airways and go with the brand that was very well recognized, American Airlines.
Mhm.
And in some cases, if you're buying a competitor or there's a merger going on, what consideration should be done related to the branding?
Oh, that's interesting. So yes, you need to look at both brands. Do we, is one got more favorability?
Mm-hmm.
Is one standing ahead that we should sort of merge into that? Or do we need to create something completely new so that we can go out there and say,
Mhm.
guess what? We've got some great news and this is why, and make the story about why the two came together and how it's going to benefit you as the customer or the client.
Yeah,
Always bring in why they would care.
I think in their consideration, they were looking at the international routes, where I believe the Americans more recognize internationally than. And you think about if your name is U.S. Airways, it sounds like you're just U.S. centered, and that's
Yeah.
it. Where if you're an American or you're a United, it's a little different. It really doesn't say we only work in domestic USA or North America.
Yeah, it sounds more global, and that's what they want. Yeah, so that makes sense.
Definitely made sense. So as you were answering Jim there, and Jim, great question there.
Thank you.
You had mentioned two things. One, story, the story. So story wraps into that too. The story of who you are, but also the story that will connect to your audience. Does that make
Yeah.
sense?
Oh, that is a huge part of your brand. Your brand story is how you're going to share, why you do what you do, why it's important to you. It's going to connect you to your audience because they're going to see similarities in your story, or they're going to aspire to maybe be like you are. This is the way that you bring human connection. And this branding is really about being able to turn that human to human connection, make it real, make it feel like something. Because let's face it, we don't want to do business with organizations and corporations. We want to do business with people. And small businesses, they actually have the advantage in this, as they can be a human person that connects with people. Big corporations are actually trying to find ways to look more human, and sometimes it's like hiring a spokesperson to represent them so that it's somebody human, and this is who we are, and this is what we stand for. See who you would be talking to. This is our personality, and this is our voice.
Sure, the credit card companies have done that. A lot of the car companies, automobile companies have done that. So that does make sense. And I think too, that's why some of the corporations tap into a charity. Because
Yes.
again, it helps them be more human, that human to human. I love that phrase there.
Yeah.
Now, the other thing that you had said was, when you were answering Jim, was, why should someone care? Like, that's huge. Why should they care?
Yeah. And that's where it all goes back to, and why I was so conscious of saying, okay, that you learn about yourself, but make sure that you learn about your customer and your client. And that's why it's so important to, when everybody says you got to find your niche, or make a ideal client avatar, so that you have somebody that you can think of that you'd love to help, and that you can help, and it would be a great fit. That's what we're talking about, so that you're not speaking to everybody, that you're speaking to somebody specific. That helps you to build your brand voice and to have a look and feel that is correct for a specific audience. Now, that doesn't mean that you're stuck only with that. It's so much easier, and you save a lot of time and money if you can actually get more specific. That doesn't mean that it doesn't resonate out and attract other people, but you actually then look like you have a personality.
When I first started writing, someone once told me, when you write as if you're writing to a specific person. And I think about that too when I'm in business, the same exact thing. So,
Yeah.
and I always I have a specific girlfriend that I pictured was sitting across the table from me, and I was writing to her as if we were having a conversation. So that's a great tip there. So I think Dr. Rhonda has one. Thank you. Oh, she's sending you a thank you.
Oh, thank you, Dr. Rhonda.
Dr. Rhonda, yes, it definitely does take time and patience. So remember, though, you're growing. So it's like planting a vegetable seed, you're watching it grow. So that's
Right.
when we think about that. So can you share with the audience, Kim, how can someone get a hold of you?
So they can get a hold of me by going to my website, and that is purplemooncreative.com. I'm also on Facebook, and I'm on LinkedIn as myself, Kim Speed. But I would love to also, MJ, if you would allow, I'd love to give people a copy of my book if they'd like, and that's Branding on a Shoestring.
Absolutely. So how can they get a copy of that?
So I will put in the link for you.
Okay.
We can put it in after if you want to put it in the show notes after.
Sure, I can do that.
Okay. Yes, so I will provide that to you, and then they can click on that and download a free copy of my book, Branding on a Shoestring, How to Recreate Your Small Business Identity and Increase Sales in 83 Days or Less.
Woo! Okay, so that's less than 3 months. Okay.
Exactly.
Thank you. That is so generous of you. Truly appreciate it. We'll definitely make sure that we get that link, put it in the show notes. And I got another comment here. So yes, definitely, Dr. Rhonda, agreed. That is very, very kind.
I'm going to download it.
Yay.
Me too. And share it with our audience. So now, Jim, for those of you who have been with us since October when we kicked off this Bounce Up broadcast, Jim has been my co-host. He's moving on to a new career position, and he will not be able to be a co-host. So we want to say a big thank you to Jim for all of his dedication and helping me behind the scenes over the last 5 to 6 months here. Truly appreciate it. I will be sorry to see him go. However, we will have him back on so that he can share what is happening in his life. Jim, until then, how can someone get a hold of you?
Well, the best way is through LinkedIn, and I will still have my Wednesday at noon Eastern broadcast for Build Out. So make sure you check those out every Wednesday. And Kim, thank you so much. What a great conversation, and thank you for the digital publication. That's so great to share with MJ's audience.
Appreciate
it. It has been my pleasure, and such fun talking to both of you and getting to know you as well, Jim.
Thank you very much.
All right. Thank you again, Kim. We appreciate it. And to everyone out there, remember to make it a bounce up day. Until next time.